remember hearing the sound of my helmet hitting the ground and scraping and just thinking, will I make it through this one? Hey guys, welcome back. Thanks for watching another one of my videos. It's fun to be back and making videos again. Still trying to figure out what kind of stuff I want to be making, but it's fun to just be able to create what I want to create and you guys being open to that and watching it. First of all, I do apologize. I'm a little bit under the weather, so that's why my voice sounds like this. I'm not very good at resting. I've been trying to sit around and take care of myself, and I did that for a couple days. Don't worry, I'm taking care of myself. I figured I might as well get some projects done. I wanted to get a couple things worked on my Miata. Didn't want it to be too boring for you guys and just have you watch me working on my car with music over it or whatever. So I figured I could update you guys on, I had a big accident beginning of summer on my Talaria. I just wanted to kind of be able to walk you guys through that while I also get some work done on my car. On the Miata, I'm planning on I'm having some issues with some clearance on the downpipe. So I'm just trying to move that around and get that to where that fits. I've had issues with it for the longest time, and I'm finally trying to fix it and deal with it so I won't have any rattles from my exhaust. Yeah, so hopefully that all gets sorted out today. You can watch the process of that while I kind of talk through this. Around Christmas time, still had a street bike, like a motorcycle, and I loved it. I rode it all last summer, so much fun. But I decided that since it was snowy, I couldn't actually get out that much, and I also wanted to do a little bit more off-roading. I grew up riding dirt bikes, it's a lot of fun. So I decided to sell my motorcycle and buy a Talaria, which is like an electric dirt bike. It's smaller size, just something that could be fun to get around on and be cheaper when I have to pay for stuff, which I later figured out is not true. So I ended up buying this bike and was riding it for a couple months. A lot of fun, super lightweight. You can do a lot of stuff on it. I really enjoyed it. I was riding it all the time, almost every day, just getting out on it. And I was mainly riding trails and dirt roads. And I had done a bunch of research on it beforehand. Seemed like you didn't really even need to do anything with the bike since it was technically, thought it was still in the e-bike class. You could get it just riding it on the streets. So I was just riding it around. A couple months later, I just had a long day at work. I was really tired, and I decided that I wanted to just get out for a ride that evening. I was riding downtown behind a car, and they began to slow down without turn signal on, so I assumed that they were probably moving into the diagonal parking on the side of the road, like on the right side of the road. So I moved over into the center lane just to go around them, when it turns out that they were actually going all the way over to the diagonal parking on the left side of the road. So they cut across the center lane. I could have looked them in the eye when I started to see them turning into me. Like, I was right next to their car. Their mirror caught my forearm, and I think that's what shattered it. But I flew over the car and I hit my head on the ground. I remember hearing the sound of my helmet hitting the ground and scraping and just thinking, will I make it through this one? Because this is my 7th or 8th severe concussion, and I just didn't know how many more hits my brain could take. If you didn't know, I used to do a lot of downhill mountain biking. I was into parkour. I've always kind of been into action sports, so my head has taken a beating. But I genuinely just, like, in that moment was like, I don't know if I'm gonna be alive after this. But it all happened so quick, and I somehow stood right up afterwards and looked over my body and was like, oh, I'm still alive and my body's okay, except I looked over at my right arm and it was just pointing down. So I slowly kind of like walked over as I lost my vision and sat onto the side of the road. The ambulance and the police got there. I was sitting on the edge of the road. I couldn't really see or hear anything. People kept asking me questions, but it wasn't like I was present. You know, like someone would ask me a question over and over and over again, and then finally I'd realize, oh wait, they're talking to me, and I would reply. So I was really out of it. I got picked up and put in the ambulance, and I remember one of the police officers came over and talked to me and asked me how to take the key out of my bike or something along those lines. And I told him, hey, I want you to communicate with my dad that this bike needs to be picked up, like, in a trailer, and brought back to my house because it's gonna get stolen, like for sure gonna get stolen. Basically all that to say, he kind of ignored me and wasn't the most helpful in that moment. He ended up just being like, I don't know how to do that, and just kind of walked away. And I was like, all right, fair. And then I took a sick picture with the one of the EMTs. So I have a selfie in the ambulance, that's pretty cool. And then from there, I was brought to the hospital where they were able to do an actual full checkup on me. Luckily, somehow I made it out of that accident with just my arm broken. I got a severe concussion, but got the x-rays of my arm in, and I knew that it was not just going to be setting the arm back, it was going to require surgery. The painkillers did not do as much as I would like them to. The guy there literally said to me, he's like, with this kind of break, we don't really have any painkillers that are going to take the edge off. This is just going to hurt. So I was sitting there waiting for a actual operating room to open up. Because it's just an arm break, it is not the most important thing in the world, which I totally understand. There's way worse stuff. So they wait until they have time to do a surgery that there's not more important surgeries in front of that. A different cop, not the one that asked me about that, come in to the hospital and talk to me, and he had a ticket for me. He's like, I have this ticket. He's like, would you like to tell your side of the story? I was like, does it really matter? He's like, not really. Okay. But basically, from my understanding, these Talarias and Surons were considered in the e-bike class, so I could get away with riding them on the street. I was very wrong with that. I learned that it has to be still insured and registered, which I know to some people would be like, that's obvious, it's a motorcycle. But I had seen a bunch of other stuff from other people who had been riding it without any of that stuff and never had issues. It's such a weird, blurry line, but now I know, and I made the mistake, so hopefully other people don't have to make it. But I ended up getting a ticket for all that. So it was very not fun to be hit by a car and then given a ticket. And I was also not in a great mood in the hospital and just got a ticket. It's my first ticket I'd ever gotten. I have a completely clean driving record. It was frustrating. And unfortunately, they could not get me into a operating room until the next day. And the crash happened at about 9 p.m. So I was in the hospital. They moved me into a room just to wait overnight until a room opened up. And they just had me on painkillers consistently so I could make it through the night but I was in some of the worst pain of my life, just sitting there, and I couldn't do anything about it. And I remember being so thirsty, but all day they couldn't give me any liquids because they don't like to have liquids in you before they operate. So every once in a while I could convince one of the nurses to give me some ice chips. And add on to the story, I was very aware that my bike was sitting in downtown Colorado Springs, and these bikes are easy to steal. They don't have any locking type mechanisms. You can basically just wheel them away. Luckily, I was aware of that, so I had, when I first originally bought the bike, put an AirTag in it, so it had some sort of tracking. So the whole time I was there in the hospital, or my dad was in the hospital with me, and I kept bugging him to check and make sure my bike was still there. And at about 4 in the morning, because I did not sleep at all that night, he looked at it, and the bike had moved. And it had been moving, and he kept watching it move block by block by block, and then it disappeared off the AirTag. And we kind of knew maybe where the location was, but someone had taken the bike. And I just was laying there in a lot of pain, and I was so mad. But my dad called some of his friends, and they were very kind and helped retrieve my bike at 4 in the morning or something. They went out there and they found the bike, who had been taken by some guy. He was asleep under a tree, and my bike was right there, so they were able to just take it back and retrieve it. So very thankful. That made everything so much easier. I was supposed to have surgery early in the morning. Didn't end up having surgery till later that day because it kept getting pushed back, which is fine. But I finally got surgery, and they put 2 steel plates in, a bunch of screws, but it was too swollen that they couldn't actually close it all the way up. So I ended up spending 4 more days in the hospital, and then they finally were able to close it all up. My nurses and and the doctors and surgeons were all so amazing in that hospital. So thank you to all of them. So kind, so patient, and just helping me stay happy and healthy. And spent another 2 days in the hospital, and then I got discharged. I was just saving up for another motorcycle when I was realizing that I will not be able to ride it all this summer, and I will not be able to do a lot of things I love because of the healing of my arm. And I knew with the kind of break it was, it would be quite a few months of healing. Quickly realizing that money I had saved up for that new bike was going to be going towards other things like medical expenses and insurance stuff. So as much as it sucked, I quickly let go of that and started realizing that that money was no longer set aside for a motorcycle, it was set aside for things that I needed to deal with in that moment. In recovery, I had 6 weeks or so of PT, or OT, I think it was called, for the just like the rehabilitation and like therapy of my hand. It was frustrating. Not like I couldn't pick up a pen, I couldn't feel anything, and just having to basically relearn how to use my hand and gain back all my strength. And I'm still not all the way there, but it's a process. So that was difficult, but very helpful. And luckily I had this big trip planned with my friends, which you saw in the last video, where I went to Maine. I was still able to go on that trip, which was amazing. I was kind of not super helpful on that trip because I couldn't help set up the tent and everything. I was like in a full arm brace. I was so thankful for my friends. They helped me get through a lot of that. They helped me stay, like, I got to spend so much time with them. It was so much fun, and they helped me stay so positive and not let me get too depressed. I'm finally now, I think, almost 5 months after the accident, give or take. I'm not great with time. I'm healing up. My arm, I'm still limited on some things. I'm allowed to ride a bike again, which is awesome. I'm not allowed to like downhill mountain bike yet. I have another month and a half till that. I'm allowed to work out with weights. Still not allowed to do push-ups and pull-ups, but that's okay. All that to say, it's been a crazy summer. Very happy to be on the healing side of things and getting back into biking. So hopefully I will be making some videos, mountain biking, motorcycles, dirt bikes, all that, because I love that stuff and it is a lot of fun and it brings me a lot of joy. So hopefully I will be creating some content in that direction, and hopefully I made some progress on my Miata. I don't know yet. I'm just sitting here talking. If I look frustrated while I'm working on it, I probably didn't make any progress, but if I did, that's awesome. Anyways, I really appreciate all your support, guys. Thank you for caring. Thank you for all your supportive messages. I really do appreciate you guys, and I hope you enjoyed this video. Again, different than what I've done before, but I hope you guys like it, and I am looking forward to what I make next week. Go check out Shae's latest video talking about getting ready for her concert. That was a lot of fun. I got to see that in person and it was amazing. She killed it. So yeah, please go watch that video. Anyways, thanks so much for watching, guys. And yeah, I will be back soon, hopefully, if I can think of another video idea. All right, appreciate you guys.